Welcome to the Dear Nifty mailbag, the video series where we dive into the real challenges faced by financial advisors and industry professionals just like you. I'm Michelle,
And I'm Ben.
and we're your hosts from the Nifty team. In this series, we read and discuss anonymous letters sent in by advisors sharing their experiences, hurdles, and insights on how to scale their practices effectively. Whether you're struggling with client acquisition, staff retention, or balancing the demands of running your own business, we've got you covered. Each episode will tackle a different topic, offering practical advice, expert opinions, and actionable strategies to help you overcome these obstacles and achieve greater success in your career. Join us as we navigate the ups and downs of the financial advisory world, providing a platform for open discussion and support. This is the Dear Nifty mailbag where we help the industry scale one letter at a time. If you want to submit your own letter, click the link in the video description below, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. And today we have a letter from an overwhelmed financial advisor. And it reads as follows. Hi there. Hope you're doing well. I'm reaching out because I thought you might have some insights into growing my firm. Lately, I've been having a hard time scaling my business. I've hit a wall and I'm not sure how to break through it. Marketing has been a challenge. It feels like I'm putting in a lot of effort and money into marketing without seeing results. Additionally, I've been considering expanding my services to offer more comprehensive financial planning, but I'm worried about the additional resources and training required. I don't want to overextend myself or my team, but also I don't want to miss out on opportunities for growth. Any tips or advice would be super helpful. Cheers, overwhelmed financial advisor. So, really, it sounds like this financial advisor is coming to us with issues kind of across the board in scaling, both in bringing in new clients as well as building out their existing practice to be able to offer more services and more comprehensive planning without overextending their team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's definitely two asks here, as I call
Hmm.
them. So one is the marketing side, and it seems like they're putting in here like a lot of effort without seeing a result. So I'm kind of curious to dig into that, but then also just wanting to do more for their clients. So for the marketing side, I feel like this is a common challenge for a lot of different advisors. And a lot of advisors don't realize there's so many different areas of marketing. Marketing isn't just, a one-stop solution. There's social media, well, I'll bring it back. So there's three different areas of marketing that helps you create a successful marketing plan. So obviously the strategy is very important. um, the content creation piece. But then once you have that strategy and the content, how do you implement it and really showcase it to your audience? So with those three different areas, advisors find it really challenging balancing all three, or they work with service providers that only cater to one or two of those areas, and there's always a gap in their marketing plan. But I think even before you go to a marketing or any type of service provider, you really need to understand what that need is. And I think that's where advisors get lost in terms of what their goals are. So it's obvious here that it seems like the result that they're looking for is more revenue, because in the second paragraph, they want to expand their services, and it looks like they're really interested in scaling beyond their current capacity. Um, so with marketing, really identifying what their goal is. So not just that they want more revenue, but what's the percentage that they want to grow from month to month or year to year, and identifying what marketing strategy, task, or project makes the most sense depending on what that goal is and what's sustainable. So, identifying the goal and seeing why they're not getting the results that they need. So, have they looked at the data that's coming in from the efforts that they've done previously before making changes to their marketing strategy, or are they just creating a strategy off of them and then there's no numerical data to back up the decisions that they're making? It's kind of the same thing. I always relate everything to creating a financial plan because I feel as if it like it's easy to understand for an advisor. But it's the same thing. You wouldn't create a financial plan before looking at the numbers, and you wouldn't alter or edit a financial plan for a client without seeing what they've done in the past has actually worked. So in the same instance, you wouldn't change your marketing strategy without looking at the data and making sure that when you are implementing your marketing plan that you're being consistent with the projects that you decide to implement. Um, I don't, this advisor seems more like they have their own team and it's not a solo advisor though. Don't you think?
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds like, especially based on the second part of the question, that they have some existing team infrastructure. On the marketing side, I would just be really curious because they've mentioned all of the time and money that they've already sunk into marketing efforts, what they've been trying, whether it's been hiring a third-party marketing consulting firm or if they're, I've come across a lot of advisors who, they get really excited about committing to marketing, but like you mentioned, they're not starting by envisioning their ideal client. They're not going based on specific goals. So they're just, buying up a bunch of like Google ad space and just reaching essentially people who aren't going to be necessarily receptive and aren't starting with that strategy first or that goal first planning. So I would just be really curious about what the efforts they've been putting in, whether it's been using their internal team resources, leveraging an outside marketing firm, maybe one of those. I know there are a lot of those like one size fits all marketing firms that just kind of throw out content without that strategy focus. So, like you said, I think that's a lot of just take the step back and really look at those goals and any data that you have, especially it sounds like they have a backlog of efforts that they've tried before. That's not completely useless. There's a lot of good data there to see what they've tried before, what isn't working, who they're trying to reach, and then really use that data first approach.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad, but every marketing provider is not the same.
Mhm.
Same with every financial advisor is different. Every financial planner is different. Even though the services, I'm sure everyone can, anyone who owns a business can uh, relate to this. Even though you're offering the same service, there's something always unique about you as an individual that's providing that service that makes your experience more unique and more valuable to one person than someone else. Not every marketing vendor is not going to be the right fit for every single client. But just understanding that when you are looking for providers, but then also doing your due diligence as well and asking them like, where have you seen success working with advisors is a really great question. As I mentioned, there's so many different areas of marketing. Like, what do they specialize in? Because there are some marketing providers where they focus heavily on social media, and a lot of the times, like with smaller firms or solos, they're primarily referral based and they tend to say, even though I don't agree with this, they tend to say like, oh, I don't need to, do so much social media, but maybe I need to focus on writing newsletters to nurture my existing clients versus social. Um, and that's where, the better understanding that you have of your ideal client, where their age, demographic, where they hang out, where their hobbies, their personality, their work style, um, what's important to them, what are their financial goals, personal, professional, all of that is really important in understanding your market and where they're hanging out. No, not hanging out as in like their hobbies, but where are they hanging out in the digital realm? Um, and how do they prefer to receive content? I typically suggest that even advisors who don't do a lot of marketing and they're planning to, just ask your current clients like how they prefer to receive content, because then, you are being intentional with where you are putting your effort and money into marketing by just asking who you're already working with. And that tends to make a lot more sense, and it saves you a lot more time in the long run as well.
Yeah, I think those are really great points. And honestly, I think even though they are separate questions in this letter, I do think that a lot of the strategizing and understanding of your clients does also apply to the second part of their question regarding expanding their existing services to add, for their case, they want to add comprehensive financial planning, but we're worried about overextending their resources. And that's a common problem I see with a lot of advisors, where they reach a certain point in their business, they want to take that next step. And we've all been told, the next step is comprehensive financial planning, as if that is a very distinct thing and not a very broad term. And it's just tough to find the direction to go with that. So similar to with marketing, where it is start by taking that step back, by being introspective and looking at your ideal client, looking at where they're hanging out, what their goals are, what their values are. I think the same approach goes with adding a new element to your existing service providers to add value. Because, if you're taking a look back at your clients, you want to know what element of financial planning can I add to my practice that will add value to them so that you're not casting so broad a net, exhausting all your resources, all your time on elements that wouldn't necessarily bring that value. And then from there, I'd love to hear if you have any additional thoughts, but my first instinct is take a look at your existing team, take a look at the resources you already have, and actually do the exercise of, let's say you wanted to add comprehensive tax planning to your
Hmm.
practice, build out that workflow, run through it with your team as if you have a client going through that pipeline, and just see where you guys already have the infrastructure to provide that service. And that'll give you a really good picture on what those gaps are and how you can fill them, whether it be through bringing on a paraplanner, bringing on, a virtual service like ours, or just adding new technology. A lot of advisors, I think, get trapped into this angle of, I want to add this service. Let me sign up for all the technology that gets pushed to me so that I can make sure I'm covering my bases. And they end up spending way more time researching and training on platforms, more money on those platforms, and end up using, a tenth of that service when they had the existing talent. They have, an incredibly talented team that is willing to and really probably excited to step into that comprehensive financial planning space.
Hmm. And kind of what I mentioned also, in marketing and with comprehensive financial planning, you mentioned this too, is, figure out what makes sense is most important. I think with solo and small firms, we also feel like, you have to do absolutely everything, but then you end up spreading yourself really thin. And again, you're not getting the results that you want or the traction that you need. Um, so even when you are thinking about providing a new service, like comprehensive financial planning is such a large area where, if you're working with a specific niche, um, there are specific challenges that typically resonate or commonalities between um your clients that make the most sense. So if you find that a lot of advisors who are based in California, they tend to work a lot with like equity comp and, deciding that um, and starting slow is valuable too. You don't have to do everything at once, because if you spend all this time building out this new service and it doesn't make sense for your ideal market, again, you're putting a lot of effort with no results. So choose one focus area that would bring your clients the most value, not necessarily just what you believe is value to yourself, which not the revenue piece, but really making it make sense
Mhm.
for your clientele.
Yeah,
And
it's funny you brought up equity comp because that was the one that was in my mind because I've worked across, met with advisors in the past who were saying I want to expand my offerings, and I know equity comp is this big this big topic that adds a lot of value to people, and they're like doing the research, they're trying to bring on new talent, new technology, do equity comp, and then sitting back and saying, hey, how many of your clients are based in California or in those industries where equity comp matters? And they're like, none of them. And then asking, okay, how many of the clients that you want to bring on, does your ideal client work in equity comp? And then those advisors saying, well, no, my ideal client is a doctor. And then just
Mm-hmm.
realizing like, you don't need to add these services that won't add value to your ideal client. Like focus on what
Mm-hmm.
your clients need, and maybe not just your existing client base, but what your ideal client looks like. Begin to, model your services and model your areas of specialty to what your ideal client would truly value. And that'll save a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, and allow you to be lean, streamlined, and able to provide the exact things your client base wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I can see that being very costly if you have to build absolutely everything from scratch. And you mentioned, going to your team. I think it's important to bring your team in into the decision of whether offering a new service, whether it's comprehensive financial planning or any other type of solution based on what excites not just you, but excites them and where their expertise lies. Um, because it would save on costs because you're able to utilize the resources that you have internally already. And you also get more buy-in from your team as well when they are bought into the process, and it doesn't feel as if you're creating a service but they don't understand what the goal or the mission of that service is. um I think we took away a lot of I think we offered a lot of great ideas. I really love this letter just because the biggest challenge, the first few years of building a firm from scratch is really hard. And when you're able to have that data and see, that standing and still be in business a few years later and be able to get to look at the data and really invest money into marketing and be able to assess whether your services work. I think people don't realize that that's a huge milestone in itself to be able to expand in that way and to invest in your business because a lot of advisory firms aren't able to get to that point. But I really hope that, with the feedback that Ben and I gave today, that you have at least, one takeaway that you can take back to your firm or even let it simmer a little bit. And if you have a similar challenge or a challenge that you're having this week, this month, feel free to write a letter to our Dear Nifty mailbag and we'll be happy to help. Thanks, Ben. I enjoyed our
Awesome.
conversation and we'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, everyone.